Hello, everybody. We are here in Austin, Texas for the Consensus 2022 by CoinDesk, the festival of the decentralized world. And today I have with me Bud White, who is the co-founder of Tacen Exchange. Welcome, Bud.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you with us. So, for our viewers, could you tell us how you actually started your journey into the whole blockchain technology and cryptocurrency?
Sure. I think I have like one of the more interesting stories because I've actually been working in crypto since 2009. I started my career as an engineer working at BlackBerry doing encryption software.
Wow.
So working through BlackBerry, then a couple of competitors in the space after that, I really knew the encryption and mathematics part of what is now used in blockchain. I had an opportunity in 2006 to move from Silicon Valley and like traditional fintech into blockchain, and then I made the jump because I had the I guess fundamentals experience.
Wow.
And then I started building an exchange solution at a company called Digital Asset Holdings,
Okay.
where we were bridging traditional finance and blockchain. So the problem we were solving was clearing and settlement for traditional assets, so equities, bonds, stuff like that.
All right.
And we built it out, and the Australian Securities Exchange uses our blockchain-based settlement system now. So that was like my first dive into crypto. So it wasn't, proprietary chain. It wasn't, all of these more sexy projects you hear about, but we did some really good fundamental work in the early days.
Wow, that's exciting. So how long you been in this space, in the blockchain space?
It's been 6-7 years now.
6-7 years. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was different back then, 6 years ago, and what it is now.
Very different. Yeah, very different. There was so much more emphasis, at least when we talk about like the financial part of it, which is now DeFi, there was so much more emphasis on private or semi-public chains. And we've kind of seen that entire part of the ecosystem disappeared or diminish because we've seen so many really cool things be built in DeFi in the last 3 years.
Wow, cool. So Tacen Exchange, can you tell us more about it? What is Tacen Exchange?
Yeah, so Tacen as a company is a software company based in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Tacen as a brand, we're very compliance focused, privacy focused, trust focused, and we work with a lot of the U.S. regulators, both in Wyoming and nationally, to promote and protect the laws that are being written around crypto.
Oh, okay.
We are writing 2 projects, right? So the first one that you mentioned is a crypto exchange, right? So we're writing a centralized order book to be able to trade assets, but we're settling it on a decentralized network. So the other half of what we're building, which is an open source project, is a network of, let's call them oracles, that can agree to update multiple chains for transactions that happen. So an example would be, let's say you and I want to trade Ethereum for Solana. The two of us would deposit assets in a smart wallet, which we still own the keys to, which gives us access to a centralized order book. You are selling at a price. I say that's the price I want. We match.
Okay.
That gets sent over to the decentralized network for settlement. So the magic to it is that in the entire process, you still have custody of your asset. I have custody of my asset.
Right.
And it is not until we actually settle that we give up custody and do the swap.
Wow. So I saw that it's an hybrid exchange. So can you give us a little bit more insight on that?
There's so many acronyms around here. So we've got the DEX, the decentralized exchange. We've got the SEX, the centralized exchange.
Right.
So we're kind of taking the 2 parts, right? We're taking the decentralized settlement layer from the DEX and the centralized order book from the SEX and kind of putting them together. We're calling it a hybrid DEX. I mean, really, what I believe this to be is like the next standard for how every exchange is going to be built.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow, that's exciting. And when was this founded, and how long has Tacen been in the space, in the blockchain space?
So the company was founded in 2019 by the CEO Jay Yang.
Okay.
And then I joined at the beginning of 2021 when a lot of the fundraising took place.
Okay.
So we ended up launching a token called TXA as a utility token for that settlement network that we spoke about.
Right.
We pre-sold enough to set up all of the operating capital we need for the company, and have been building on the back of the money that we raised through our token launch.
Wow, that's exciting. And what are some of your future plans with Tacen Exchange? Like, in which countries does it operate right now, or what's the future that's there?
That's a good question. We're focusing on the U.S. because it's so heavily regulated.
Okay.
The opportunity that I see coming up is getting new types of investors into the crypto market.
Okay.
Right? Because when we think about crypto, it's a finite resource, at least per blockchain, right? Like Bitcoin.
Right.
The only time that the price goes up, or I would say that the utility of the network increases, is when you get more users.
Right.
Who we see on the sidelines right now, just dipping their toes in, are the institutional investors, right? Whether it's large banks, hedge funds, or mutual funds, right? Like pension and like long-term investment funds.
Right.
They're all very curious about what this asset class can do and whether or not they should make an investment. A lot of it comes down to the regulation. Because their chief compliance officer says there is no definite regulation around this, they won't touch the asset class. So we work with both Wyoming state and federal policymakers to try to clarify what the future should look like, because as an exchange, what we really want to go after are those institutional investors. I believe that's the next phase of how the crypto ecosystem as a whole grows, and it won't grow unless the tools are there that that institutions want to use, like self-custody. I don't think that any institution is going to feel safe giving billions of assets under management to a Coinbase, for example. They're going to want to self-custody. And they're going to want the regulation to be clear about what they can and cannot do. From an ownership perspective, a transfer perspective, a taxation perspective. Once all of that's cleared up, that's kind of the next phase of where I see the market going. And that's the phase that Tacen is currently building for, which still might be 6 to 18 months in the future.
Okay, right. And I'm just going to ask a question which is out of not from Tacen. What I wanted to ask was, is decentralization, we see the whole world moving towards this, but is there a future in it? Do you think the world is moving towards decentralization?
Let me answer that with a practical example. So when I was at Digital Asset Holdings and we were building the blockchain-based settlement layer for equities, well, why did we do it? We didn't do it because blockchain was the hottest technology. We did it to solve a real problem. The real problem was coordination of databases. Right? Trading on the New York Stock Exchange, there's tens of thousands or maybe even hundreds of thousands of individual brokers. And those brokers need to have a live view of what they owe, which assets they owe to which counterparties. And an insanely large amount of money is spent by brokers doing what they call reconciliation, which is my report. When I run my internal reports, it says when we net all of our trades, I owe you $1 million, right? But your reports say that Bud actually owes you 1.1 million. So, well, what didn't get accounted for? So the market today is so segmented, right? In updating each of our own databases with trade data, that we used blockchain because it was the easiest way to coordinate data over a large set of individuals quickly. So it was the most practical tool to solve the problem. So when you ask, where's the market going, right? Is this whole trend of decentralization going to move into every sector, into art, right, with NFTs, into real estate with NFTs, right, into finance with DeFi? I think the answer is if and only if the benefits of the underlying technology have a 10x benefit to what they're trying to solve.
Right.
So, is art a good example? Maybe not. But making sure that all trading participants in a market have the same view of who owes what to whom, that's a good use case.
Yes.
So I think we're going to see a lot of growth where the root, right, and the utility of blockchain solves problems very, very well. And then I think there's a lot of trends that come and go, right, that are much more sentiment driven and hype driven, that are kind of flashes in the pan that may not be around long term. But I do believe that the technology itself solves a fairly large set of problems quite well, and that's where we should be allocating time and resources. Everything else I kind of laugh at sometimes as I see these trends come, and some people get very rich, a lot of other people lose a lot of money, but yeah, it's...
Well, one of the questions I always ask is the whole world moving towards tokenization? I know it's in a huge bubble right now, but for ones who've been in this space, they know where it's heading towards. So, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think we're seeing it. People want to tokenize everything. I mean, today I can buy like property that is tokenized. I can buy art that's tokenized. I can buy financial instruments that are tokenized. A project I've done in the past was tokenizing real world debt and then selling it as NFTs that were yield generating. So, I mean, you can pretty much tokenize anything these days. Does everything need to be tokenized? I don't know. Like an example would be, I forget the name of the project, but they're trying to tokenize real art pieces, like a Picasso, for example. And does that warrant needing to be tokenized, right? Maybe if you want to be a partial owner of it, right, for the financial benefit, but for the provenance and the tracking, it's difficult to bridge the gap between a real world object, right, and a digital certificate that represents ownership of it. So yeah, I think the practicality breaks down when you start talking about bridging to real world assets. But I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see with like this metaverse and almost everything being tokenized there, what happens.
Well, it was really nice talking to you, Tacen, Bud, and all the best with Tacen Exchange. And I think it's a very unique product or a project that you brought. And I would tell my viewers, go ahead and have a look at their website. That's Tacen.com.
Tacen.com.
And yeah, thank you so much, and all the best with your project.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.